Which musician artist would have had the best career had they not met an untimely demise? Otis Redding. He was at the forefront of soul music pretty early on. He died at 26 before he made much more of an impact. Anton Yelchin. Poor kid. He was in Star Trek and his career seemed to be going up. I mean, surely Heath Ledger. I was shocked looking at how small his film history was. For someone who is consistently held in high regard for acting ability, he doesn't have many roles to his name. Quality over quantity, I suppose. His first movie came out when he was about 18 and he died at 28. He did 19 films in total, so on average, 2 films per year. I don't think that's an amount to scoff at. Would have loved to see what he would be doing now had he not passed. Buddy Holly. Mine was Richie Valens. That plane crash really effed up music for a while there, didn't it? The day the music died, Holly was only 22, younger than most on this list, but was trending towards being a multi-talented singer, songwriter, arranger, producer, member of the rock music community. Bob Dylan, the Beatles, and Brian Wilson were huge Holly fans, and Buddy Holly could have been bigger than all three. He probably would have progressed in his craft, and given us all kinds of songs and sounds never heard before. Innovator. I always imagine in an alternate reality, he would introduce SRV to the world. I've always said if Buddy Holly had lived he would have been bigger than Elvis ever thought of being. Would have loved to hear more from Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Alan Wilson, lead singer of Canned Heat. All performed at Woodstock and belonged to the 27 Club. Edit. Janis *, not Janis. Jimi Hendrix especially. Had to scroll WAAAYYY too far to find him, goddamn. Maybe I'm biased lol. Richie Valens. He formed his first band at age 16 and died at age 17. Every song that he released and performance that he played was in the span of less than 1 year. Unbelievably gifted musician with so much potential. Selena. She was finally gonna get her break in American music. Jim Croce. He had his big break in 1972 and died in a plane crash in 73. Imagine all the great music he could have made had he made it to the 80s. Ian Curtis from Joy Division. After his death, the band renamed itself to New Order. The guitarist became the lead singer, and they transitioned from a post-punk band to a new wave one. New Order became one of the most popular bands of the 80s, and had Curtis not died he would have been part of that success. One of my favorite songs from them is called Ceremony, which Curtis wrote and performed with Joy Division a couple times. But he died before they could produce it in a studio. A year later New Order produced it, but there's one audio recording of Ian singing it a year prior which is good but also sad to listen to. New Order is one of the most influential bands ever. Blue Monday itself was a game changer. Chris Farley. He was going places, man. And not just to his van down by the river. I could see him doing some great stuff, but also a lot of terrible straight-to-Netflix films, probably some awful sitcom pilot in the mid-2000s. Jeff Buckley. Breathes into Mike. Mozart. Rock Me Amadeus. Bradley Nowell. Tremendously talented musician, died right before the band released the album that would see them rocket to the top. I can only imagine how the follow-ups would be. Absolutely agree. Sublime is still my favorite 90s band, and that's saying a lot given all the amazing music to come out of the decade. They were 1 to 2 years away from becoming legends. Mama Cass Elliot, the lead female singer from the Mamas and the Papas. She had finally made her solo career breakthrough with a residency at the London Palladium in July of 1974, then died in her sleep at the age of 32. Contrary to a very awful urban legend, it was not from choking on a ham sandwich. It was from a heart condition that was previously not known. She was such an intelligent, funny, charismatic, and talented person. Her voice was one of the best in music. I believe without a doubt she would have had a successful solo career in both music and also in television with a variety show if not for her untimely death. I recently saw a documentary about her on YouTube. She was incredible. Her version of Dream a Little Dream of Me always has me speechless. It sucks how much she was made fun of because of her weight. Her voice was on a whole other level. Tupac. He was already a legend, but imagine if we got more music from him. Damn. Especially right now with everything going on. A super intelligent and talented artist raised under the Black Panther ideology. He could have helped change the world. Perhaps I was addicted to the dark side. Somewhere inside my childhood I miss my heart die. Damn good lyricist and storyteller. Mitch Hedberg. The dude had a very unique personality that blended with his dry, dad-like sense of humor. Some of his jokes, if told by someone else, aren't even funny. But if you heard him tell it, you'd laugh. If he were alive today, he would be the king of Twitter. His jokes were formatted perfectly for it. River Phoenix. Aaliyah would have been bigger than Beyoncé or any R&B pop star. I know Reddit has a raging hate boner for Beyoncé, but I really hate when people pit Aaliyah and Beyoncé against each other. Aaliyah would undoubtedly have had a long career if she lived, but Beyoncé would still have the similar career. They have their own styles of R&B, and there is room for both. You're not joking when you say they have raging hate boner for her. Lol, I got downvoted x60. Because I said she is talented and deserves her fame. Elliott Smith. Queen would have kept doing well. Not great, as most bands didn't transition to the 90s well. But I think Freddie Mercury could have made it happen. Kurt Cobain. When he died, Nirvana were on top of the world. Imagine if they were still making music now. I love Nirvana, but I politely disagree. They smashed out a few albums during a golden age of garage bands. Look at Pearl Ya Monsieur, 3 incredible albums and nothing but filler since. I think their future success would have depended in Cobain's willingness to change with David Grohl. And if Grohl would grow as he did. That's seriously painful to read. Holy shit. Pearl Ham's catalog is remarkable. Edit. Not changing it. The responses were too good. Pearl Ham's is a better band name TBH. I love Cobain and Nirvana. I listen to Nirvana almost every week still all these years later, but Cobain would have either disbanded Nirvana and/or done some weird off-kilter stuff. He hated being famous. He said his happiest time was when they were all crammed into a van touring in their early days. I figure he would have either retired from music, done some solo more folky stuff, or possibly taken Nirvana in a weird non-rock mainstream direction. Not saying it wouldn't have been good, but it wouldn't have been the Nirvana we all know. Mac Miller. The man was a talented human. He wasn't afraid to explore other music genres and let his personality shine through his verses in productions. He would collaborate with people you've never heard of because he saw something in them. Monsieur, the man was special. RIP. He spent a good decade in the game. His music changed through every album. Monsieur, he lifted people up and vice versa. This new album was an amazing sound for Hi Monsieur. Devastated we didn't get to hear more. The world has felt a little emptier since he passed. James Dean. He had major roles in 3 movies and became a cultural icon. Christina Grimmie. This still upsets me whenever I think about its sad face. I'd never heard of her before the incident. It's a shame. A tragedy is what she's associated with rather than the music she created. Robert Johnson. According to the CBS box set liner notes, he was just starting to play electric guitar in the clubs before he died. Well, his contract was up, and the devil gets his due. Avicii. Some of his best songs still haven't been released. Honestly, I can't believe it's been 2 years since he passed already. Hope he is up there smiling down on all of us still enjoying his music. Nick Drake. Absolutely beautiful and unique music that would have put him on top of a genre he helped create. A lot of people would probably say his career was already past, but not a day goes by where I Don't wish I could listen to a new song from Chris Cornell. Stevie Ray Vaughan, the guitar goat. Patsy Cline, country music artist, died in plane crash at 30. Jim Morrison, Johan Johansson. His last score, Mandy, is by far his best. Anton Yelchin was just starting to really grow into himself as an actor. The band hers was really good and only had 2 albums out before their untimely demise. Anton. We just watched Charlie Bartlett. Jim Croce, super talented musician and songwriter. Jean-Michel Basquiat. Randy Rhoads, Ozzy's first guitarist, died at 25 in '82 and still considered an insanely great guitarist. Not necessarily up there with Hendrix, Page or Van Halen etc. But he might be if he hadn't passed. You see videos of Ozzy listening to old records and you can still see Randy affects him to this day. I personally think he was better than Hendrix and Van Halen. Those arpeggios he pulled during his fills and solos were insane. Super complicated patterns of notes played ultra fast. Dwayne Skydog Ullman died at 24, and aside from the incredible work he did as an Allman Bro, he also had racked up lots of session work with many others. Aretha Franklin, King Curtis, Otis Rush, Wilson Pickett, etc. At Muscle Shoals Studio. His work on the Wilson Pickett recording of Hey Jude grabbed the attention of Eric Clapton in a big way, which led to his work on the Derek and the Dominoes sessions. Quite the resume for a 24-year-old guitar genius. Would have been nice to see where it went. John Lennon. Yep. Second this. Partly cause I would have loved to see where his music went into the 80s and beyond. And partly cause I like to selfishly think that all 4 Beatles could have reunited for some stuff off and on. Better than Free as a Bird and the other one. Like, I doubt they could go full-time back into making an album. But the occasional show or tour together, a one-off single here there, kind of thing, like Pink Floyd at Live 8. Chopin. I recently discovered his music and am trying to learn some of his more simple pieces, and I'm amazed at their complexity. He died too young. Would have loved to see what a few more decades would have brought us. Shannon Noon came here to say this. He and the rest of the band progressed so much with only 3 albums. I would have loved to see what else they could have done. Jimi Hendrix. He was getting funkier and jazzier. Check out South Saturn Delta record was released posthumously and got some different stuff on it than you'd expect. Tupac for sure. He was at the top of the rap game by 24 and is still considered one of the greatest rappers of all time. And he was 24. Mark Bolan, T-Rex, was having a career comeback when he died passengering in a car that veered off the road and killed him on impact. I wonder what could have been, whether it would have fizzled out again or whether he would have continued to get stronger. Hendrix, Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. I just don't want that plane accident to have happened. My grandmother was so sad when she told me about it. Marvin Gaye. No modern popular music would be what it is today without Motown. Bill Hicks. If I could add a comedian. The guy had toured America for the majority of his 15 years in comedy. He found fame after visiting Canada's Comedy Festival, which brought him fame worldwide. Was still lost to most of America despite his dark and timeless humor. He was ahead of his time. Now or even 10 years ago he would have skyrocketed to fame. I'm a fan of the Foo Fighters. I think Dave Grohl is great. But imagine if Nirvana were still making music together. Janis Joplin. Cliff Burton, the greatest bassist in the history of music. I love Cliff, but that just isn't true. He was the heart and soul of Metallica. If he were still alive, they definitely wouldn't have spent the last 34 years devolving into a grotesque parody of themselves. Debatable. He was great, but have you even listened to Primus? I'd put my money on John Entwistle tbh. Cliff Burton was a unique bassist in the metal genre at that time, but objectively nowhere near the best bassist ever, or even the best metal bassist ever. Amy Winehouse was an amazing musician. Unfortunately, the drugs ruined her before ultimately taking her life. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.